Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the 905er podcast with myself, Roland Tanner, and my co-host, Joel McLeod. Hi, Joel. How are you doing this week?
Doing well. Still social distancing due to the pandemic, but none the worse for wear.
Oh, it'd be nice one of these days to maybe do a podcast where we're in the same room or something, but
Yes.
for the time being, we'll continue at a distance. So this week on the 905er podcast, we've got an interview with Isabella Mallon and Korede Balogan, who were two of the organizers of the Burlington Solidarity March for Black Lives Matter, which was held back in early June. Isabella and Korede were two of, I think, all told, there were 4 or 5 organizers, but they did a fantastic job, and we saw a march the like of which Burlington has never seen before. And we had a long chat with them yesterday, and here's the interview coming up now. Today we're welcoming Isabella Mallon and Korede Balogan, who were two of the organizers of the Burlington Solidarity March for Black Lives Matter back on, I think it was June the 8th, I believe, or early June anyway, and you can correct me in a few minutes. The march, for those people from outside of Burlington who may not have been familiar with it, was a huge success. Burlington is not a city that traditionally has huge marches. This was, by any definition, a very major march, 4 kilometers all the way down to downtown, and then well, you can give us the details, but it was certainly a very impressive event. So I wonder if, just to sort of kick us off, if you could tell us some of the background to the event, how you came to get involved, how you came to organize it, and what motivated you to do so.
Yeah, so the march was June 4th, but
June
yeah,
4th.
so it was early June, yeah. But basically what happened before the march that kind of led us to doing this is myself and one of the other organizers, Noah Bowen, who we spoke to on the phone with you a couple weeks ago, but he just wasn't able to come today. But we had gone to the exact spot, New Street and Walker's Line, and just held signs up about like a week before we decided to do the march. And the first time we went, it was just us two. Then there was a following time we did one more time. And then the third time he had gone alone, and there was just some people that were just kind of there, like as if they were just kind of waiting for us to be there. And
cool.
yeah, so there was about maybe 5 people that day. And then the next day I went along with him again, and we stayed there for maybe I think it was probably from 12 p.m. to around 5. So we were there for 5 hours, and there was probably in total maybe 20, 25 people that were just kind of coming. We had extra signs. They'd stand for 30 minutes or so, then leave or bring water. And it just seemed like kind of a lot of people were very engaged in kind of what was going on. So I just kind of had the idea, because I heard of a lot of marches that were going on, and I was like, I mean, even if only 20 people come, clearly there's some people actually kind of care about everything that's going on. So I just walked around the people that were there then, and I was like, if we had a march, we could come. They all said yes, and from there I just messaged my friend, because she's pretty good at making posters. Her name's Anisha Rippey. She made the poster, and then from there myself and Korede and Noah just kind of organized it. I posted it on my Instagram, and originally we thought maybe 30 people, and then it went from 30 to 100, and then from 100 to 1,000. It was all really quick. But yeah, that's kind of where it came from. And we just kind of saw an opportunity to kind of just show some kind of support in Burlington.
Do you have a final estimated number of how many people did march?
Yeah. So I've heard a lot of different numbers. I think I heard at one point there was a article talking about 5,000-10,000. I don't know if that's how much it was there, to be honest, but that's kind of between 5 and 10 was kind of where I saw a lot of the estimates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I personally I thought it was only 2,000, but I was also at the front, so I'm not really sure. I didn't really see. Yeah.
You didn't see. I joined from kind of near where I live, just near the public library, and when I joined, the front had already passed, and I looked to the right towards Walker's Line, and it was solid as far as you could see. So then we joined and we walked downtown, and there was the whole thing with the bending of the knee and everything. And when we came back, people were still coming. It was incredible. Like, you probably didn't get a proper sense of just how many people there were.
Yeah.
It was, I've never seen anything like it in Burlington. Really haven't.
Were you guys as shocked as we were? I mean, Roland and I have been talking about this for a while. We are longtime Burlington residents, and we're very involved in local politics. We have never seen anything of this size in our lifetimes, or at least in recent memory. And I'm just wondering, what's your sense of it all as the organizers? I mean, are you as shocked as we are?
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, even myself, especially me and Korede, we spoke about it, and we were thinking, like, imagine like 500 people came or 100 people came. That was like a big number to us, right? So we didn't know how many people were going to be there until the day of. So even me and Korede, we got there kind of early, and we saw a couple of people coming in, and we were like, oh, okay, like, I guess there's not going to be as many as we thought. And then within like 10 minutes, there was like hundreds of people.
Yeah. Yeah, like, adding on to what Isabella said, it was honestly like the biggest shock. Like, I didn't think it was gonna move to that many people, to be honest.
What's going through your mind as you're seeing all these people show up and start to congregate, and you realize that that's what they're there for? They're there for this march. Like, what's going through your mind at that moment?
I mean, at first I was kind of nervous because I was like, wow. Especially because the way we planned was we were supposed to walk on the sidewalks. So first it was like, I was like, whoa. But then I just, like, once everyone like really came, it was just like, I don't know how to explain like the feeling. It was just like a really like it felt very connected. Like, it felt like wow, like we're all here for, the same reason. Like, it felt really strong, and especially because it was like, we called it a solidarity march, right? So it was like it was just beautiful to see how many people that like wanted to come out and like, I guess, wanted the same thing as everyone, right? Especially because it's not a community that has a lot of, it's not very like, it is growing, like Burlington. There's a lot more culture now, but still, it's just, you never notice. I don't know how to explain. Like, I would never have expected so many people, like even my peers, to have showed up, because I they didn't really necessarily like speak about it before, but then the fact that they kind of just saw and like came, I just felt so much more connected to my community. And I think that I saw that with a lot of other people, like after the march as well. Like, I got a lot of messages just kind of speaking. A lot of people of color that did live in Burlington were messaging me like, wow, I've never felt like so many people really cared about, like, my community actually kind of had me in mind and wanted to stand up for me and stuff like that. So I guess it was just like a really strong sense of like solidarity and like strong community and like stuff like that. Like, that's kind of what I felt like, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, it was just speaking as someone who, actually, I think, Joel, you told me about it the day before, and I mentioned it.
Yeah, I found somebody has shared the Facebook event to me through something or other, and I said, oh, okay, that's neat. I think at the time you had about 400 people saying that they were going to attend. I said, that'd be a pretty good march of 400 people. Yeah. And Roland sent me pictures of there. He's like, there's way more than 400 people marching down New Street here.
Yeah,
and it was absolutely the most wonderful feeling. Like you said, it was beautiful. It really was. Overwhelmingly people much younger than me, but that doesn't matter. I mean, that just made it all the better as far as I was concerned. It was just to see, the next generation really standing up and being counted. Just absolutely wonderful. How did you? Now, I believe you did sort of deal with the. You obviously had to speak to to Halton Police because you were on the roads and stuff. How did you find working with them?
Well, for me, it was surprisingly, like, I don't feel like I understood like how they were going to respond at first, but they responded really well. Like, their head chief was like, sent out a letter saying like, I'm really happy that this is happening, like the word needs to get out. And they kind of were, even now to this moment, we're actually trying to work with myself and Noah and trying to figure out a way to create a council, like a youth council within the police, to kind of help them, I guess, learn more. Like, they were very like responsive, and like they didn't want to overstep. They were okay with like staying in the back, and they just kind of wanted to learn and listen so that they could better, I guess, communicate with the people of color in our community and kind of just see where their next steps were. So it was actually really great working with them, and like it continues to be really great. Like, they continue to really want to pursue, I guess, some kind of, they want to make something out of the march and be able to continue to educate our youth that are coming up on the topic. So I found it really great working with them, and I think they appreciated the fact that we weren't making it an anti-police march specifically. So that's why they also had they even said, though, they said, if this is an anti-police march, like, I'm okay with that. Like, they didn't necessarily have a problem with it, but obviously, like, because our approach was more solidarity, the last thing we wanted was it to be against anybody, right? Because they're still part of our community. Yeah.
On that note, I mean, looking at the coverage, you had Member of Parliament for Burlington, Korede Gould, marching. You have the mayor, Marianne Mead Ward, as well as numerous councillors showing their support publicly for the march. And I'm wondering, I mean, have you been reached out to officially by these people or other politicians, people with power in the community?
Yeah, the mayor, we had a Zoom call a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and like you were saying, you wanted to speak about kind of what we're doing in the future. So when we do get to that topic, I can speak more on that. But we have spoken, and she was really happy about everything that happened. She, as you know, like, expressed her support. When we spoke about it, she was kind of trying to find ways to, again, like, kind of like the police, like, they were just kind of trying to listen and like learn from everything. But they were really happy to see something like this happen in Burlington, because they I guess felt like it was something that always needed to happen. But I guess they felt that because I was a youth or younger, I was able to create more traction, like things that they would never be able to do. So they were kind of just happy that I stepped up and was able to do it. And yeah, I think the only people that did reach out, though, was the mayor. I didn't really have anyone else reach out, I don't think. But she did like go out of her way to set up an interview with me and just kind of speak with me, and was very, very eager to create more and do more with this.
That's really good to hear. I mean, and to say it's unusual in Burlington, like you've done something that's never been done before. I mean, there have been marches and protests, but I would guess if any was ever larger than about 200, that was about the most. I was just wondering, did you get any? Or did you get? Let's put it this way: did you get any pushback at all from anybody in the community? Did you get any kind of comments about, you shouldn't be doing this? I mean, I know that there was an article in the Burlington Post that I thought was kind of just totally missed the point, because it was talking about COVID and stuff like this. Did you get any kind of non-supportive comments, or was everybody pretty good?
There was like a flyer that someone had made on Instagram or something, and they were just saying that how they didn't support it because there's of the COVID issue, like you just said. But that was the only thing that I saw that was being sent to me on the solidarity page, which we did the whole wear the mask, wear your gloves, everybody took care of that. But I just feel like that was just them just trying to stop something that was very important.
I was just going to say, I think it should also be pointed out that there hasn't been actually any new cases linked back to the march. It's been a few months now, and no, I don't. From what I've read in the papers or read in the news, any new cases that popped up in Halton, none of them have been linked back to the Solidarity March.
I also just wanted to say there was also like, there's two other things. There was one, we had a Facebook post about someone basically kind of trying to say that we were using the march to destroy local businesses. Basically, do you remember, Korede? Yeah, there was like a man who was basically, it seemed kind of like a threat. Like I actually had to relay it to the officers because it kind of seemed a little like weird, but I think it was also like what Korede was saying, like somebody's trying to stop it from happening altogether. But they were saying like, be careful for people like laying down bricks, because I guess a couple weeks before, a week before ours, is the Vancouver march or a march in Vancouver, BC, like that happened. Mm-hmm. And so there was like people saying that the Burlington march was doing that, and then I got like at least personal messages, like a lot of them kind of just saying like it was actually from a lot of young people. I didn't get a lot of like, I guess, older people doing it, but because our march wasn't anti-police, they felt like we completely missed the entire purpose, and that like we weren't actually doing anything, and if we go, then like they were basically urging people not to go because what we were doing wasn't what we were saying we were doing because we were not anti-police and we're actually trying to like invite the police and all that kind of stuff. So we did have like a little bit issues with that, but I didn't get any really like messages, I guess, kind of saying like, don't do it, don't have the march. But
Right.
the only time I did, I guess, feel a difference in ages was when we were holding the signs on Walker's Line before we did the march. You could see like the people driving past that were honking or were like kind of like being like, oh, good job. We're like either parents with kids or youth. Like a lot of like older people would just kind of look at us and like keep driving. You know what I mean? Like they didn't.
Right.
You can kind of like feel like it's like almost uncomfortable.
Well, it's almost, do you think there's a bit of a, this might be a bit above your pay grade, so to speak, but I'll ask anyways. Do you think there's a generational divide that, I mean, we are aware of the Black Lives Matter movement, I think, because of the internet, social media, whatnot. I mean, we see the Facebook videos of police killing black men in a very graphic manner, and for I think for the younger generation, your generation, you see that, and it's hard to discount that. You can't. There's not really like another side to that when it's this kind of the same video all the time, just different actors taking place. And I'm wondering, do you feel like it's a generational divide, that there's a younger generation is looking at saying there's not really an excuse for this action, for this behavior.
Yeah.
Change needs to happen. And if the generation that came before us isn't going to do it, then we're going to have to make the change for us.
I think there's definitely a generational divide. Like you can see it, but I don't know. Yeah, like you said, like I don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to
I
think.
don't really know how to even answer that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about it.
Fair
Like,
I tried, but I can't.
What I can say is like I definitely do notice a generational divide. I feel like personally it's just because, like you said, like our generation or around our generation, I guess up to like 25, we're very like social media oriented. We're always seeing this kind of stuff, and it's almost, I guess you could say it's almost like, I don't want to say it's to take away from a lot of people that were supportive of the march, but sometimes people our age will just do it because it seems like it's kind of in right now. It's not necessarily what it's not necessarily they feel like, oh, Black Lives Matter, or they really are passionate about it. Sometimes it's just like they see other people
Talking on the trend.
Wait,
what?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you get different levels of commitment to any cause.
Yeah.
And you get people, but you know what?
But
the
I
people
wasn't
who come along because it's just because it's a thing in the news right now.
Mm-hmm.
Very often they won't come along at all. So they came along. That's
that's
a
the
huge
thing.
step forward. Yeah.
I wasn't like even if that wasn't something that they maybe wasn't really passionate about, I know that them coming, a lot of people even messaged me saying like, at first, you know, I was unsure about it, but now you know what I'm saying? Like it was a big movement, but I don't know, when it comes to the generational divide, I think it's just because of the way that people grew up, that a lot of people are very stuck in their ways, like older generations are very just stuck in their ways and their understanding of things. But we're at a really progressive like era, I guess, like our generation is very progressive. So that's why I feel like it's not as hard for us to kind of change our minds or change our understandings of things going on. Whereas obviously people who maybe grew up like 20, 30 years before us, it's so ingrained, and like these stereotypes and these kind of ways of thinking and ways of life are so ingrained that it's not as easy to kind of just shift away from that, which is understandable. But I think that's why there's such a divide between us, because we're so progressive in the sense of like, maybe this wasn't okay before, but now we can understand and put ourselves and progress and kind of like that. So I don't know, I guess that could be the only way I can kind of wrap my head around why there might be like a divide.
Yeah, and I mean, my generation, when back in the 80s and stuff, I guess that was the start of the green movement and stuff, and it's one of the most disappointing things is seeing my generation drop the ball and not follow through on, you know, we were all joining Greenpeace and we were all going on march, and here we are, we all went out and bought SUVs. So I really hope that your generation sticks with it, particularly on this issue above all issues, on issues of race and equality and fairness. Oh my God, let's just hope that you really stick with it, and that you can take an event like this and turn it into something really, really huge and really important.
Yeah.
On that note, I guess next question is, what's next? What do you plan to do next with this this momentum that you've generated?
Yeah. So we kind of have two/3 things that's kind of come from it. One of which is a youth council that right now it's just myself and Noah who are helping run. Hopefully Korede can join at some point, but I'm not 100% sure on the details of exactly what it is, but they had reached out and asked me and Noah to kind of help with the youth council, kind of help run it. I don't know too much about it, but I do know at one point there will be a youth council. It seems that it's going to be one of those things where kids will like come into and they'll like graduate out of kind of thing, and it will just keep generating like more people going through, trying to get like other people's point of view on the subject. It's specifically.
And this would be with. Sorry, this would be with Halton Police.
The Halton Police, yeah. We have our we're having a meeting about it on August 20th to kind of figure out exactly what it is, just because COVID made it a little bit difficult. And then myself and Korede and Anisha Rippey, we are right now organizing a roundtable talk with the mayor that's going to be open. Like, I posted a little like teaser flyer about it. We haven't figured out an exact date, but it's basically an open roundtable to anybody in the community in Burlington, where the mayor will be there and present. She's not going to be talking, so it's kind of like a listen, but it's just a way for people to kind of express their experiences, their concerns, and what they feel like needs to happen to create a stronger and more united community. So I guess like after the march, now everyone kind of did the walk and saw the purpose. It kind of just gives people a voice. And because what the mayor is kind of wanting to do is create her council as well, both a youth council, but also just a council like for anti-racism. And she wanted to start off like, well, it's kind of like my idea, but she kind of wanted to see what I wanted to do. And I thought it would be a good way to start off is hearing, what we think we need like as a community in all areas, because it's not just about what the youth need. It's, you know what I mean? So I just felt like, I guess that's kind of where we are right now. Just working out the details of that. And then, that kind of flows into it. So it was the youth council with the mayor, the youth council with the Halton Police, and then we are organizing a round table talk that should happen by the end of August.
And what changes would you like to see come out of this for Halton or Burlington?
My biggest thing is it's kind of hard because the whole reason for the march, like everything was just kind of creating a stronger community. Like I came out of a community in Mississauga, right? And there we had things like barbecues for the whole communities, things that kind of reached all areas of that community, and it felt good. And then I came here and like, I feel like Burlington is very, like, obviously we all go to school together as kids, but it's very separate. It doesn't feel like one big community. I feel like there's some things other than Sound of Music, which isn't really like something that we kind of do together. I'd like to see Burlington kind of be able to start organizing things that incorporate all ends of the community, because we do have people that live in Burlington that are under the poverty line, that they go to things like free barbecues, but then we have people that are like way over the poverty line that wouldn't kind of find that like something they want to do. So it's like kind of trying to find a balance in like organizing things where like everyone can come together and everyone kind of feels that sense of community that we did feel at the march, right? So that's what I hope to happen, and hopefully through these like youth councils and things we can kind of like figure out a way to connect everybody together, so it doesn't always feel so much as like those people of color are on their own, or people that are, don't have as much money are kind of on their own, and then it's everybody else. That kind of like divide between everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, that sounds wonderful. It's a good point actually, that Burlington has lots of communities within it that don't, and we're divided down the middle by the QEW, and we're there are things that make us being kind of Burlington together quite difficult sometimes.
Yeah. And
it's actually worth emphasizing that Burlington is a lot more diverse now than it used to be.
Oh yes,
particularly in the newer in the newer areas, and it would be good. You almost need to make the effort to make that visible and make that obvious. Certainly, if you go to City Hall meetings, you will not see Burlington's diversity on display very often, and I think that's something that would do us all a huge amount of good to keep in mind and to work towards improving. And the idea of sort of events that really bring the community together—that's a fantastic thing to try to do.
Well, I'd love to follow up with the two of you as well as Noah, maybe if he's free sometime to come back on, because I'd like to follow up on those ideas and see how they are coming to fruition. If you'd be comfortable with coming back, maybe in a couple months' time, see what's new.
I also wanted to say that I totally forgot. The mayor was looking at possibly creating, like, not necessarily an annual like solidarity march, but she wants to give us as much power as we can to create next summer, do something, I guess, kind of similar, like a solidarity march.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't figured out that, but that's also something that we were looking to doing. She's like, basically everything that they kind of do for the Sound of Music March, like all
Right.
She was like trying to back us up, and like if we wanted to, have a march, make it a barbecue, kind of make it something bigger at the end. She was like really open to possibly doing that as well.
No, that's very impressive, and it's very ambitious to do. And it's I think if you're able to get that ball rolling, I'd like to talk to you again about it in a few months' time, see how the planning and what that's going to look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just consider you have a standing invitation to come back. I would really so impressed with what you've done already, and hopefully it's the start of something bigger, and it would be a really positive step for Burlington and for the whole region, really. So thanks so much for speaking to us today. I see that my Zoom time is about to expire, so I have to call it a day. But really appreciate you talking to us, and congratulations again on such a successful event, and all the very best with everything that you're going to be doing in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thanks very much to Isabella and Korede for spending the time with us yesterday. I thought that was a fantastic discussion. Joel, what did you think?
I thought it was very, very inspirational. I thought both of the young women who were on were well-spoken, very articulate, and very optimistic for the future of this community and the movement in general. And it was something I think you and I had talked for a while about wanting to get them on the podcast. We were first talking about the idea of this podcast. We had mentioned that these were people that we wanted to have on because what they did was just so unprecedented and really really inspiring to have that many people in Burlington come out for the Black Lives Matter solidarity. It was just kind of something that I think you and I both said it just blew us away.
Absolutely. I mean, I know I looked at the Facebook page, and I think when I looked, there were a few hundred people signed up, and I thought in my kind of patronizing way, oh, well, that's really good. And, if they get half of that number who actually turn out, they'll be doing really well. Well, my goodness, it was really something else. And I guess we should say not just congratulations to them, but congratulations to the people of Burlington who came out, because it really made a statement in a big way.
Well, I think you and I both have connections to the kind of the political scene in Burlington, and what they accomplished with that was just we never would have thought this would have happened in Burlington. So to see that people were that motivated, that passionate about this cause, that is worthwhile. It is an important issue that we need to have discussion over publicly. And to see that many people come out and show their solidarity, show their support, and their interest in the issue, I really do think it speaks something to this community, about this community, and what people want to see in Burlington and in Halton region, and maybe in Western society in general going forward.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, it's a really good thing, and we can't pretend, unfortunately, that everybody is of one mind. But what a good start, if you like.
Absolutely,
and to see young people in particular come out and be so successful, and also be so optimistic about the future is really good to see. So certainly wishing them all the best with things, and that they don't become tired old hacks like you and me before too long.
Well, I look forward to seeing what they accomplish, because they are just getting started on their careers, wherever it might be. But I do wish them well, and I hope that they have many, many years of success, because they've gotten off to a great start.
That's for sure. Okay, so what we're going to do now is a new section, which I guess will probably become a weekly thing, which is to look at a few of the other stories that are happening in the 905 at the moment. We're quickly discovering that we could probably do a 3-hour show each week
Yes.
on the things that we'd like to talk about, and we're having to really cut back on the things that we'd like to cover because there's just not enough time without making it highly likely that you'd all have switched off. But certainly a couple of things that we both wanted to mention. Joel, do you want to start off with the story that you particularly wanted to talk about?
Yeah, this story came up that it was first published in the Spec, but the NDP working with the Spec have discovered through Freedom of Information documents revealed information pertaining to the LRT in Hamilton, that the documents that the government was relying on to formulate their decision to change the funding formula for the LRT doesn't contain the figure that the government was relying on, and that was basically that there would be a deficit of $5.5 billion for this LRT project, and the reports they're coming out, that number does not exist in the reports. So it's definitely a question of where are these numbers coming from? What does it mean for the LRT project going forward? And just what will the face of Hamilton look like in the next decade? Because this was supposed to be a very big project, very important project to help revitalize, I believe, Barton Street in Hamilton and help work to revitalize the downtown. That seems to be put up in the air now with the Ford government no longer funding it to the tune that they were promising. I think it's something that we're going to have to keep our eyes on in the coming months.
Well, for sure. And I think as people like Ryan McGreal, the editor of the Raise the Hammer website, anyone who's not familiar with Raise the Hammer, go and check it out right now. He pointed out, and a number of other people pointed out, Hamilton councillors included, that this number never was, this $5 billion number that got pulled out of the air, that, it's going to cost $5 billion, never made any sense. It was just a convenient way to almost bad joke, throw the LRT under the bus. The only LRT in Ontario that's been cancelled since the Conservatives came in is the one that's in a city that has no Conservative seats. The ones that are in Toronto, the ones that are in York and Mississauga, there are Conservative seats around there, and they're all going ahead. And for Hamilton, this was going to be I'm completely biased on this subject. I think it would have been completely transformative for Hamilton. As so often is the case, Hamilton can't seem to catch a break when it comes to stuff like this. Well,
it's something that it's a question that in the 905 across the board, the question is we're changing the face of our communities. I mean, we've talked. You and I have had long discussions about development here in Burlington. What's that going to look like? There's questions in Mississauga of they're trying to develop a downtown center there, and Hamilton has long been trying to revitalize certain BIAs in the community. Barton Street was going to be one of them, with this LRT being a central part of it. And again, yeah, you're right. It would have been a transformative process that really. And the question is, what kind of city or communities do we want these places to look like? Hamilton seemed to had a plan that they were wanting to enact, and then all of a sudden, nope, we're going to put down this barrier, and it's a question of what's going to happen with how you're right. How is Hamilton going to catch a break?
Yeah, and they'd already spent a lot of money had already been spent on full-time employees doing the planning the routes, working out how the criticism of the LRT were that. This is only suiting downtown people. It's the centerpiece of the entire transit system of Hamilton. Putting this at its center was a really key element. LRTs sometimes get a bad rap from people who are not familiar with the difference between a LRT and a tram or a streetcar. So I'm showing my British background there. I was over in Scotland in January. They put in an LRT after I emigrated back in 2003. It cost quite a bit of money, not 5 billion, but it cost quite a bit of money. There was a whole lot of it certainly wasn't a simple path from putting the plan in place to actually delivering the LRT. But my goodness, now it's there. It's fantastic. It's those trains are full every day, and it just it really does. It's so different from a bus, and if you're driving and commuting into Edinburgh, this thing is so obviously the easy and simple way to go.
Well, I think
that a bus, for whatever reason, never seems to be able to do.
No, but I think this isn't a story that's going to be ending anytime soon. I think it's something that you and I are going to be keeping an eye on to see how this progresses and what City Council is going to do and what advocates on the ground are going to be arguing for. And it's something that we're definitely going to have to keep our eyes on in the coming weeks and months ahead. Okay,
well, my story of the week is it's another Burlington story, so apologies to people who aren't from Burlington. But it's a cause very close to my heart, I have to admit, and I can't pretend to be unbiased on this one either. And it's ranked ballots. So on Thursday at I believe it's the Corporate Services Committee, the excitingly named Corporate Services Committee at City Council, the staff report is coming to the committee. The committee, for those that don't know, in Burlington, it's the same as council. It has all the councillors on it. It's just a step before the full council meeting. So this is a staff report which is reporting back on a direction from council in, believe it or not, 2016, when the staff were asked to go away and to report back on how ranked ballots were working in other cities, and they were being adopted for the 2018 election. London was the first city to go ahead and fully implement ranked ballots, and a couple of other cities, I believe Guelph and Kingston, had referendums on ranked ballots. And since then, some other cities, I think, have gone ahead and adopted ranked ballots for the next election. Now, what's the big deal about ranked ballots? The argument is that they give a much fairer representation of voter intentions, and they work particularly well in municipal elections where we don't have political parties. So in very often what happens in municipal elections is that the incumbent has a really huge advantage, and it's simply because people have heard of their name. And the other advantage is that if someone is running against the incumbent, you almost always get a few opponents, and they have an uphill battle to get their name known and to sort of have a fair kick at the can against an incumbent. And we've certainly seen that in Burlington over the decades. I don't think I'm saying anything too controversial to say that, say, for instance, Councillor Dennison, who was beaten at the last election, was beaten because there was only one person running against him, which was the first time. The previous 3 or 4 elections, there'd always been 2 or 3 candidates, and you end up with a split vote. So I think it's a fairer way of doing things. Others may disagree, but I think with the particular challenges that we have with municipal elections, where very few people are, to be honest, even aware of who their councillor is until days before the election is held, it helps to have this kind of system where you can rank your choices. So say, okay, this person first, this person second.
I think it's a very progressive way of electing our representatives, mostly because you're right. It's fair. I mean, you have, it's not a first past the post either. It's an all or nothing kind of venture. You can have multiple people on a ballot, and you say, well, I might like person A's policies, but I also like some of person B's, and so you can rank it and construct your ballot that way. What I always thought was an interesting part is from the whoever the elected official is, you kind of get a sense of how well your message is being received. It's the current system doesn't really allow that any nuance. You have enough ballots to win, and you're elected the representative or the counselor or whomever. But if you're in a ranked ballot choice, you might say you didn't win until like the third round. And that kind of tells you maybe my ideas aren't really as resonating as well as I thought they were. But, if you said, well, no, you won on the first ballot easily, you won the majority of votes, you can say, well, clearly I've got a strong mandate to implement my policies. And I mean, I think that's a bit naive on my part, but I think that's a way of kind of transforming the dynamic between elected officials and their constituents. And I should say, this isn't necessarily just a municipal ballot issue. I mean, this was one of the, if people remember from way back when the current Liberal government was elected, this was one of the options that was being touted to change how we elect our government. Clearly, that did not take root at the federal level because we still elected people the old-fashioned way. But that was one of the things that was being touted, was a ranked ballot system, and of course, politics got in the way. And I don't think we have time to get into that. But I was kind of excited about it because I thought that it was a way to really have an elected representative that truly says, I have the will of the people behind me, or to say I need to do a little bit more work to connect with my constituents, because I think these are one of those things that can really transform the relationship between at least our city council and the citizens that elect it.
Yeah, I mean, my personal view is that any system but first past the post is better. There are different pluses and minuses for different types of voting system at different levels. I think at a municipal level, ranked ballots work really well in a non-partisan environment. There's arguments, pluses and minuses at other levels as to whether it can act as a kind of, it almost forces you to the center when you're dealing with parties. But yeah, like you say, those are discussions for another day. But certainly, I would say in terms of Burlington, this is a really exciting and important development. And because of COVID, it's kind of easy for these subjects to go whistling past without much notice in the community. So anybody listening who's interested in this subject and thinks that ranked ballots would be an advantage, I can recommend you to consider delegating or writing an email to your councillor or writing an email. Get yourself on the public record as supporting, if you agree with me, or whatever your opinion happens to be.
Or write into the show, and maybe we can have a discussion with average citizens on this at some point as an idea as this debate goes on.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes a tough sell to talk about electoral systems because it's like, hit the snooze button, guys, but it actually is so important. And the question that never seems to get asked is, why do we have the system we have now? People always throw the problems with alternative systems. It's like, why do we have the system we have now? Well, the answer actually is because that was the system that was used in the 1600s in England to elect landowners to the House of Commons. Well, that's not a very good argument for still using that system so many hundred years later. So like I say, it is the kind of thing that I have a bee in my bonnet about. And when the opportunities come along, you have to seize them, because once they're gone, they're often gone for decades. So I'm hoping that council really jumps on this one and doesn't punt it another 4 years down the line, which is certainly one, if not two, of the options that are on the table. A referendum is another option, and I again, as someone with a British background, I'm not a fan of referendums right now, particularly in municipalities where they're completely non-binding unless you get 50% of the vote. And no city in Ontario ever gets a 50% turnout at a municipal election. So I would say skip that one and I think find other ways to make your decisions.
We can have this debate for many times over because this is not I think this is a topic that's not going to go away anytime soon.
Well, I hope not. I hope it doesn't get punted, and at least we have the chance to have a full kind of discussion on it. Okay, well, that's our two issues of the week, and as you can tell, we could probably go on speaking about both of them for another hour or so, but we'll spare you that and do it in another week. So thanks again, Joel. In the weeks ahead, we've got some other really interesting stories coming up, and We hope you enjoyed the discussion this week.
Make sure you, if you have questions, make sure you send them in to us at info@905er.ca. You can also find us wherever you subscribe to podcasts. Please like us, rate us 5 stars, share us widely, and follow us on Twitter at 905er.ca. You can also find us on Facebook as well. Thanks very much, folks, and we'll see you next week.
Bye for now.
You looking to make the most out of this life and optimize your personal wellness? Then check out the Natural Man Podcast. Join me, host Mike C., as we explore all areas of human wellness, physical, mental, and emotional. Learn strategies to optimize your own well-being and be in the driver's seat of your own health. Remember, your doctor works for you. Learn biohacks, neurohacks, ways to improve sleep, and ways to optimize your body and your mind. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, the Fountain app, and at naturalmanpodcast.com.